Well, the greatest amount of progress that you notice usually with any conversation class is basically their fluency. So their vocabulary is getting better. They're learning some specialized vocabulary since we speak about specialized topics. As grammar points come up, we cover it in class, and so that's getting better. But the biggest improvement would just be overall fluency. And by that I mean they're more comfortable speaking in English with each other and with me, and using the knowledge that they have previously, getting over some points of shyness, for example, and being able to use the language that they already know, building that up upon the language that they're learning in class. The main problems that students have to improve their English is basically taking it outside of the classroom. So whenever you're learning English in the country of your first language, if that's not English, the idea is as soon as they leave the classroom, of course they're speaking to family and their friends, shop owners, etc. They're living their lives, and so they're reverting straight back to Spanish. So with our classes, since we have classes once a week on Saturday, the idea is that as soon as they come back the next week, you've got a bit of a setback, right? They're not moving forward from the point that they left off in the last class. They're moving forward from a point probably half of that. So that's the biggest challenge, because they're often not using it outside of the classroom. Well, the format that I use, the exercises I use, basically, is they come prepared to class with the reading that they've done for homework. And again, this will be on any specific topic. For example, technology and social media, or sleep and dreaming, for example. So they have a specialized topic. We introduce special vocabulary for those topics. Some topics have more special vocabulary than others. Other topics don't. Then the conversation itself is a mix of structured and non-structured conversation. So I give them a choice of usually many questions to choose from that they are going to discuss with a partner, not with me, and not as a whole group, but one-on-one, so pairs. So they have a choice of, for example, 20 topics. They choose 4 or 5 of these topics. And then I highlight the importance of using these questions not as yes and no, right or wrong answers, and all of them being necessary to answer themselves, but as guideposts in order to keep the conversation going. And the key to achieving fluency in any conversation using the knowledge that they already have is being specific. So I encourage them to use details, which are specific examples. Personal stories are great. If you tell a personal story about yourself, you have to speak for a length of time, which allows them to use the vocabulary that they already know. That's often followed up with a class discussion, so they can repeat some of the things that they've already talked about, thereby correcting some of the mistakes that they might have felt that they made themselves, and having me correct those mistakes as well, and opening it up to a class discussion. Well, first of all, a lot of students of any language tend to think of language learning as definite. In other words, it has an end to it, and that's just not the case. Even a native speaker is always learning their own language. So one of the things that any language learner for English can do is to keep taking courses, first of all. Outside of that, it's intrinsic motivation, which is using the language that you've learned compounded outside of the classroom. That's the most important thing. So if you're here in Lima, Peru, for example, finding friends who speak English. And that doesn't mean that you need to, in fact, it's recommended that you don't seek out native speakers, because the problem with that is it tends to be an imbalanced relationship between a native speaker that's not actually a teacher and you're not paying, and a non-native speaker. You can seek out students from other cultures whose second language is also English, even your own culture, Spanish, even though I know it's hard to revert to English when you have the shared first language, and practice with them. The easiest way to do that, of course, is to travel. There's nothing like travel to force you into speaking the language when it's necessary, because it's absolutely not understood. Your language is absolutely not understood. Gracias al Colegio de Traductores del Perú. Thank you to the College of Translators.